Motorsport Radio.
I'm Ryan Vickers.
Hi, I'm Ben Curry.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team, and you're listening to Motorsport Radio.
Yes, hello and welcome. This is the Superbike Show. It is Leicester here on Motorsport Radio, and we are live this Wednesday evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, we've got a packed show, and we hope that you can give your thoughts and opinions to all of the big news that's been going on, especially today, conveniently so. Thank you very much to everyone who's broken news, almost as if it was really actually just for the show. We will get to it. And some really big hot rumours as well, like who's going where's Dovizioso going? Is he going to OMG? Probably, maybe, who knows? And where's Brad Ray going? Is he going to somewhere else? Those questions and more hopefully will be answered, or probably not at all in any way, shape or form. But also, we've got some big interviews. Lewis Rollo's coming on the show later, and hopefully, internet depending, Eunan McGlinchey, or Glitchy. I'll have to get his pronunciation of his name right. But one person who is here is Tristan Finocchiaro. Hello, Tristan.
Hi, Lester, how are we?
Very well, and I see that lockdown Barnet still going good.
Yeah, still going good. Can't get it cut now, can I?
No, you can't.
Yeah.
So we'll be asking you about your ride as well. And
Sure.
Talking about ride, we did invite Kyle Ride on tonight's show, but he was, let's say, unavailable, probably busy riding. One person who is also back as well, Jay King. Now, you probably won't, for those visual radio viewers, you won't recognise him. He has got a proper lockdown Barnet haircut. And also onto the show as well, making a champion's return, please welcome Michael Howarth. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Evening.
So, Michael, been a while since you've been on the show. Welcome back. What have you been up to?
Same as everybody else since lockdown, unless you've been racing. Pretty much sod all. I'd love to give you loads of tidbits about what I've been doing through life and all the fun things and stuff, but no, I've basically been sat on my couch like a cabbage. But I've watched plenty of racing, which is probably why you've dragged me back on, so I can talk about something. Yeah,
there was a reason. That was probably it. And Jay King joins us. He's got rid of his Marge Simpson do now. He had a big
obviously, same as Tristan, I couldn't go to the hairdressers, so the missus had to get the number 3 clippers all the way around. So, but don't worry, the blue hair will be back. I just had to get it cut because it was getting far too long.
Fair enough. And anyway, so it's looking a lot less like a bad boy band, as Michael Howard said a few weeks ago. But we decided he's Robbie Williams anyway, and not Mark Owen.
Not Mark Owen.
No.
So I'm the joker, the shit singer that's a joker that's earned loads of money. I'll take that.
You said that, I didn't say that. He's very Robbie Williams is a very respected figure in British music. Anyway, on the show later on, you can, I suppose, if you're tuned in listening live, you can get your questions to our guests. Just pop them in the comments box below, and why not? And I'll try and read them out to them or whatever. Just a quick highlight on some of the headlines before we dive into what's been going on in BSB, the big news today. Obviously, as you probably might already know, Dovizioso has decided to take a year out, a sabbatical, because he can't get his optimal ride, basically. And what was the exact reason, Michael, for he wanted to do some motocross or something?
After... Clearly not. The Aprilia ride didn't sit well with him, and he didn't want to do that. So he's had a number of test rolls offered. Apparently, KTM did offer him, even Honda at one point, and he was very close to signing with them. And then the Yamaha opportunity came up when Lorenzo decided he'd rather eat cake and sit in Switzerland. But he wants to do the Italian National Motocross Championship next year, and none of the teams would allow him to do that, because as we all know, motocross can lead to accidents and the teams don't really like you doing it. So he's basically just said he's going to take a year out, go and do the Italian Motocross Championship and come back in 2022, which it seems a bit hard when there's so much young talent coming through. But if he's going to go anywhere, I think it'll be Tech 3 KTM if he does come back in 2022.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's Michael Hour's take on things, certainly, and we'll have to, I suppose, wait and see what does happen, whether he does come back or he signs maybe for OMG and races in BSB next year. That is one of the...
Is there anyone that hasn't signed for them, by the way?
Well, everyone's going there.
The person that's in BSB signed for them next year, aren't they?
Have they confirmed their stock 1,000 rider yet? That you never know.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think Billy McConnell would have something to say about that. I'd probably go and fill him in, the little convict.
We will get on to some of the hottest rumours this evening that are frequenting the internets and the BSB Fans Support Facebook group. Hello, guys, if you're tuned in there. Also, other news. You may have also heard that Andrea Iannone has been slapped with basically his 4-year ban after his appeal was rejected. He was quoted as saying his heart has been torn apart by the decision, not the drugs, obviously. So that's I'm going to say a shame.
Yeah, I'll jump into that one as well if I can. It's from reading from what Simon Patterson's wrote. I can't pronounce the name of it. I'm from Yorkshire, but testosterone or something like that. It's a steroid that you can lose fat but keep your muscle mass about. And then he spent all last year running around the paddock going, I've lost 7 kilograms, and look like a Greek Adonis. And I think he's brought this on himself. And then when he's come to the appeal, he's brought no new evidence with him at all. So why would it makes no... If he got an 18-month ban, if he'd kept his mouth shut, he'd have been racing in the middle part next year. And now he's knackered till 2024. So it's his own making, his own doing. It's a bit tough for him. And I can only see him doing World Superbikes when he comes back in a couple of years, because his sentence starts from the initial ban.
Suspension. It's not prison sentence.
Suspension.
Or ban.
Sorry. Ban.
Wait,
well, he's still banned from riding for 4 years. He can't ride anything, can he?
Mate, well, true. Well,
you can ride for my team in Free Tech.
Or in OMG in BSB. Oh, you heard it here first. There you go.
Anthony West couldn't. He went to Brazil, which isn't FIM sanctioned. They added to his ban because he was still riding a motorcycle. They're like, you ain't riding a bike on track here. It's a bit tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny how word gets about, even in the darkest corners of world motorsport. But anyway, that apart, because you already knew about that, and it's been well talked about with Iannone, so there's kind of no new ground to go over, unless he comes on the show and tells us his thoughts on various things, in which case we'll dedicate a whole 20 minutes to him. Also, BSB, yes, more BSB news. FHO have taken over from the Smiths team. FHO, that's owned by Fei Ho, the granddaughter of the Macau casino billionaire. If I got that right, I think. And that should be an interesting one. Thoughts on that in more depth later on. But FHO Racing BMW is going to be a thing. And also, BSB race winner Kyle Ryde has made, well, it's fair to say, a shock announcement today, or rather, OMG have made a shock announcement that they've signed Kyle Ryde for next season on a 2-year deal. Also, staying with BSB, MSVR and the FIM, or the Dorna World Superbike organisation, have agreed a deal to develop the Supersport class for, I think, next season. I don't think it's just a 1-year deal, but good on them. Your opinions on that later, and especially how it might affect other classes, if at all it might. I don't know. Again, later. We'll get to that later. If you want a bit of news that you may have missed, which happened, I think, last week, Stuart Hicken has his company has purchased the East Midlands Racing Association as well, which are based at Mallory Park. Just in case you didn't know, it's don't know what you. I don't know. It's just one. It was just a noteworthy thing which I noted down. I thought, oh, okay. So I noted it. And also, British Talent Cup calendar has been published as well yesterday. The MSVR Run Championship will make a return back on the British Grand Prix bill at Silverstone next season. I think it's a 10 event calendar for next year. British Talent Cup remaining a fan favourite on the BSB bill, and back again on the Moto GP bill as well. Very important for those young riders to be learning in such a big venue such as the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. So, since we were talking about BSB quite a lot, we're going to stay with BSB because there has been quite a bit of news. Tristan, starts off with the newest team, although it's not technically the team are not new. It is Smiths still, or most of the team, but it's just a new owner, I believe. FHO Racing BMW. Tell us more.
Yeah, essentially, it's still the shell that was the Smiths Racing team, the FHO Racing BMW that's been just been announced, just been launched, and they've announced that they're keeping on Peter Hickman. Xavi Forres is going to be in there as well, so he's coming back from World Superbike, so that's going to be interesting to see, because he had a real tough time this year over with Pachetti at World Superbikes, and they've also got they're also running the Superstock 1000 class as well with Alex Olsen. So that'll be really interesting to see. The team, like you say, team owned by Feiho, which interesting because obviously she's had a lot to do with over at, in Macau with the casino stuff, and also I think helped PBM in one of the years. I think it was 2010. With supported PBM and Stuart Easton to win the Macau Grand Prix back then, so got plenty of experience. It'll be interesting to see what they can bring to the BSB paddock. Of course, running that BMW M1000 as well.
Yeah, she's had some input this year into BSB because she was. I don't know if she helped back Brian McCormack, but she certainly had some interest in what Brian McCormack was doing, the Irish rider that came over.
And also, I believe she's quite a fan favourite among the Michael Busser household as well.
No, she's not listening.
Not anymore? Okay. moving on. Carry on, Tristan.
Let's just stepped into it.
No. Moving on. It's all right. We'll edit this bit out.
Okay,
Don't
move
worry
it. Moving on. Moving on
Swiftly. I'm sweating now. I'm going to text message in a minute. God, that's nice.
So I'm only laughing because you lot are laughing. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just like the idea that Leicester's completely stepped in it. But yes, moving on. Rider movements. There's been quite a few announcements recently. Buchan's Buchan's leaving FS3, which we already knew, and that after a 10-year Kawasaki relationship, that he was with them for a long time. They basically sort of grew up with Kawasaki, didn't he? They were sort of took him under his wing and took him a long way. So now to see him moving is, it's going to be strange. Even when we saw the pictures, obviously, it's been announced today. Buchan's moved to the Cinetic BMW ride. It seems like everyone's on BMWs at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see, because even when it was announced, it just looked wrong seeing him next to a BMW because we're just so used to him being on that Kawasaki.
Interesting.
Yeah, he had a little stint away, didn't he? He went to Ducati and rode for Steve Wilf.
Yeah.
He's essentially, like you say, he's Kawasaki through and through. His blood runs green, and I like the fact that he's taken up a new challenge and gone to the Syntec team at Taz. But I just wish that someone in World Superbikes had picked Danny up and sees his potential. That kid is about one of the only people I can think of that would give Johnny Ray a run for his money. And it sounds ridiculous because he's only had moderate success, shall we say, in his Superbike years. In Superstock, he was unbeatable. But there's just something about Danny Buchan's riding style that if he went to World Superbikes, he would clean up. Honestly, he would. If he took Alex Laws's place, say next season, he'd be Johnny Ray. He'd be the teammate that'd give Johnny Ray the biggest run for his money. He's just the way he rides. Just maybe it kind of suits European circuits, shall we say. I'm not getting into the traction control thing again because I'll get a million messages off his ex-crew chief and stuff. But Danny Buchan in World Superbikes would fly.
Yeah. All right. Well, what makes you think? What about his riding style makes you think that
There's
he could?
Something about the way Danny rides. Danny, he's very European. He's astonishingly fast. There's just his riding technique is amazing. I'll get into the Kyle ride thing a little bit later as well when we speak about Kyle. But I just and I've said it forever. I've said it on this program before, Lester, where I talked about the fact that in Superstock they do have the use of traction control, and his chief mechanic come and said we don't run any traction control, blah 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 blah. But whether the slight rider aids that you get in Superstock as opposed to Superbike seem to suit Danny. And if it's not that, there's just something about Danny that I think in World Superbikes that kid would fly. So before he could messages me and tells me off, Danny, I would just wish you were in World Superbikes, mate. I know you could win.
It'd be good to see another, riders going across younger riders going across from BSB to World Superbikes as well. It'd be good to see, someone who's been coming up and doing that. Yeah, sorry, Jay. Yeah,
we did speak about it a couple of weeks ago. We think there maybe needs to be some new British riders in World Superbikes. I think, well, obviously Chaz has moved teams, but I think maybe Tom Sykes, he's been there long enough now, maybe time to move aside, maybe for him to come back to BSB. But it would be nice to see likes of Danny Buchan, Bradley Ray, Carl Wright get their chances in World Superbikes now.
Yeah, I think you're right with that, and I think in the next 18 months, I think you'll see the guard changing, where you see Kyle go off to maybe Moto Gp or whatever. But like you say, Bradley Ray is another good contender. I'd put Bradley Ray in World Superbikes rather than send him to Moto GP. I think Bradley Ray will come on in leaps and bounds on a Superbike, and I think if I was to guide him on his path, I'd send him to Worlds, because I think Bradley'd do well there as well. So, yeah, I know what you mean. Tom Sykes has stayed with BMW for next year because he's a fantastic development rider. Look at what he did to the Kawasaki.
Yeah.
He came in there, developed that bike, won the World Championship, and the bike that he gave to Johnny Ray was the basis of what Tom had developed all along. It's just that Johnny Ray actually ended up liking it more than Tom. So I can understand why BMW have kept him. It's a shame. I don't know who's going into the satellite team. Eugene Laverty didn't really do what I'd expected him to do this year, and the family's great, and I'm good friends with them all, so it's a bit hard to say, but don't think he deserves his place anywhere this coming year in Worlds. He's someone that should maybe come back to British. And there are open slots for him. Eugene would do well back in British now. I think his time's up and ready to come back to a new challenge.
Yeah, it could do him well as well, obviously, having a fresh challenge, because he's been there a while now, and he's not quite doing achieving what he wants to achieve. I mean, he's a good rider, so he'll want to be up the front a bit. So yeah, like you say, coming back to BSB could be a good opportunity for him to do well. But that staying on the rider movements for BSB, Andrew Irwin as well is also on that. Is also teammate to Buchan this year on the BMW as well, which I thought was a bit of a shock move.
Yeah. The BMW package just hasn't worked this year in BSB for anyone due to the new tyres and such. But BMW seems to have pulled away, and they've changed it. They brought out this M model. The frame geometry is slightly different. They've got the wings, the engine's been upgraded and stuff. So if I was Andrew, I don't know why he left Honda, whether it was his decision or he was kind of said thank you very much off your pop.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a scary challenge that it would have been at the beginning of this year. I think BMW have worked to get a frame that's going to work on the Pirelli tyres across the board, because they're very similar to the World Superbikes, if not the same front tyre.
Yeah.
And they seem to have took all the data from it and brought out this M model, which is, call it an M model. It's an homologation special, because they knew that the one that they brought out is just not working, so they've had to do something homologation special like Kawasaki have done and whatever. So. Yeah, I don't think the task is as daunting, and I think that's why they've coaxed Danny Buchan there. Andy Irwin has shown his talent. He could ride the iron legs off a donkey. I think the BMW will go well next year. I think we're going to see most of the teams. I know the Honda come out the blocks firing on all four cylinders at the start of the season, pardon the pun. Yeah. But I think everyone's going to be a lot closer to the Ducati next season, because what I'm saying, Kawasaki are bringing a new bike out, but does Danny Buchan want to spend another year developing that if it's an all new bike, when the BMW, it's kind of a base setting, even though the geometry is a little bit different, and go from there. It's time for Danny to come and start doing something proper. I just want him to go to World.
Yeah, well, it'd definitely be interesting to see.
All right. Other rider movements. You mentioned Irwin, and did we mention Irwin?
Yes.
Yeah,
we did. I was paying attention clearly. And
obviously,
Kyle Ride, a OMG shock announcement, as we mentioned earlier, and we will get on to more about who also might be joining him, if anybody. At OMG in the BSB. Will it be Dovizioso? Will it maybe be Iannone, or maybe Brad Ray? Yeah, nobody laughed at that, did they? That's a good, so there you go. So that's confirmed.
What about who's going to be the second rider at Honda?
Brad Ray.
Brad Ray, yeah.
He's going everywhere.
Just putting him everywhere now.
There you go.
Yeah. So far, I've heard of an Englishman, an Australian, and a Japanese man walk into a pub. No, no, but there's 3 people I've heard that could be going so far. Then Josh Up could be one of them. As a reward for winning the World Endurance Championship. An unnamed Japanese rider, and somebody that's already got links with Honda from the UK. For me.
Right, I think it's almost about time that we bring in our next guest. Our first guest of the evening, I think. Tristan, can you give us a nice big intro, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming onto the show is this year World Supersport 300 rider, also past Junior Supersport champion, Eunan McGlinchey. Eunan, how are we?
Yeah, not too bad. How's all you guys?
Yeah, no, we're all good here. We're all enjoying ourselves here. Quickly before we start, as we start, just gonna start off just by asking you just to run through your season. Just run us through what's happened this year.
Yeah, this season was debut season in the World 300. It was a tricky season for us. To be fair, it was a season of a lot of learning was involved, and don't get me wrong, we were caught off guard a wee bit with just everything that happened, but as the season progressed, we were getting faster and faster, and we were getting into it more and starting to really enjoy it. It's just, as you know yourself, it's a proper competitive class, and it's one of the ones that we just, because we hadn't raced any tracks, and along with the coronavirus situation, we sort of didn't really get much testing done. We literally only got a couple of tests done.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was a season where it was me and the team. We had a lot of learning involved, and yeah, it was at the end of the season we were starting to hit up where we thought we should have been at the start of the season, but it was just with all the learning we had to go through and all of that we had to collect. It was it was one of the ones at the end of the season we were happy where we wanted to be at the end of the season, and I came up with an injury which I couldn't do last round, which was unfortunate. Yeah,
it was unfortunate because I mean you seem to be gelling with the class a lot more towards the end of the season. But just explain to us what it's like competing at World Championship level.
Like it's something you'll never experience in any other championship. Like I haven't. I've raced in plenty, and I've never had it as hard in my life. It's one of them championships that for FP1 you go out the pits. Once that green flag goes out, you are on the limit from that time until that session's over. You can't even. You see championships here where you're maybe in the practice session and maybe setting up for a lap and taking the break back for another fast lap. You don't get a chance to do it there. It's literally, if you set up, you're going to get wiped out, that sort of way. It's dangerous setting up than it is going flat out.
Yeah.
But like it's at the end of the day, you are racing against the best in the world from different countries. It is good when you do well because it's very rewarding, and it makes you feel that you're good enough to be there, which, don't get me wrong, my confidence has been up a lot this year because of the results and things, but it was just a proper learning year, and it's hopefully hopefully we can get back next year if all things go well and try again, because now we have data to go along with it and we can hit the ground running. It's just the problem we had this year was there's no such thing as a qualifying session. It's you've got FP1, you've got FP2 and FP3.
Yep. And
all them sessions are all took into consideration with times wise. So you don't really have a qualifying session. So the top 30 out of the top 30 out of the 3 practice sessions go on to a Super Pole, and the other go on to a last chance race, which is, it's not nice for me. It's only first rider, first time being at the track, and being there first time too. So it's one of them things. But no, it's definitely a different league altogether, and it's one of them championships you don't want to move out of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you were saying about how the system works, and it's doesn't give you a hell of a lot of time to learn new tracks like this, especially when they're so different to the way the tracks are in the UK as well. How did you cope with having such little track time? What was your way of getting around learning a track quickly?
It was the way, like, at the start of the year, we weren't really in her. It was her at the start of the year. It was just we said to ourselves, we'll go out now and we will go into it and just go out on our own and sort of ride around and try and get used to the track. But it's no use. It's you have to go out and you have to go get stuck in with the other riders. So we went out after Jerez, and we sort of found this out in the Portimao, and the best way to learn the track for me was get stuck in behind one of the faster riders and just follow him around. And to get a lap time on one of the smaller bikes, you have to get a toe off, because the straights are that big and the corners that wide. You have to use sweeping lines and get stuck in behind the rider to get slipstream off and down the straight to get better time. So it's learning all rider tactics and all them things. The riders are setting up, maybe the way it works is there's maybe a rider is told maybe 6 boys around for a fast lap, and it comes to the last 2 corners, he'll just pull out of his lap, so it'll mess up everyone else's. It's rider tactics over there. They're all smart riders, and they don't want to give you a lap time.
Did you, when you went over to the, when you first started out, did you expect it to be that difficult? Was it what you were expecting, or?
It wasn't. I definitely didn't expect it to be as hard. It was it was open my eyes how fast it was for the size of the bike. It definitely opened my eyes how fast the racing was.
And obviously, you went there with your own team, Team 109. That obviously you won the Junior World Junior Supersport with, and you rode in Superstock 600 with. What was it like bringing? In relation to some of the teams that are out there, a relatively small team to the World Championship?
Yeah, that was a problem we had. It was just the team. The team is a good team, and they've always been me, and they give me everything I need, which is good. But the teams I'm racing against over there they've got 4 or 5 riders in one team. Yeah. They're collecting. They can send 4 riders out in FP1 with 4 different setups.
Yeah. And
by the time they come back in, they've got 4 different options to go for FP2. While I'm there, and the team are sending me out in FP1 with a setup that we don't really know, and a gear, and we don't really know. So we come back in FP2, we have to try another gear and try another setup, and maybe still not right, but the more riders have it perfect, ready to go. But no, it was, as I say, it was one of them years. We knew after the first couple of rounds that it was just going to be a learning year. It was just take a lot of that. It's going to be sore on us, but it's a learning year, and everyone sort of has to do them at a stage.
Well, what would you say is the main difference between riding, let's say, at a national level and riding in the World Championship?
It's a different, like, my riding style and everything I had to change my riding style to go with the lap times and putting the lap times with the other riders. It was just it was because the tracks are so much different than any of the BSB tracks. It's you're hardly braking on the stage. It's literally you're on the throttle or you're on the brakes. There's no in between. You can't go into a corner and come out a corner half throttle. It's literally came out in full throttle, and it's a different riding altogether. It's a thing that you'll never know until you experience. It's serious. I honestly didn't think it was as bad until I got stuck into the middle of it, and you're getting to a corner with maybe 6 other boys trying to find that one line, and you just have to open the brakes and barge in, and hopefully they get out of the way. But the thing about racing over there is the riders around you know what to expect, and they're not going around wiping each other out. So it's one of the championships that they all respect each other when it's on track, because it is so fast. It's so easy to get wrecked on it.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, in the nature of the class as well, the small capacity racing, it is literally all non-stop, and everything's 100 mile an hour all the time. But focusing on, because I mean, at the end of the season, it started to look promising. You were pushing into the main race. What would you say are your season highlights for the year?
I would say probably Catalunya. To be fair, Catalunya was it was a breakthrough round for us.
Yeah.
We done the double Aragon, and we honestly thought once we hit the second Aragon with the data we had from the first weekend that we'd be able to get stuck in, because it was the first double of the year we had.
Yeah.
And we says to ourselves, right, we'll go again now next week, and we get stuck into the main race. But we were struggling with bike setup at that stage, and it was so difficult just to get a nice lap in and around. And Aragon sort of one of the tracks it was taking a bit longer to get used to learning, so it was. But yeah, it was probably Catalunya, because Catalunya we went out straight away, and we were sort of in and around the lap times that we needed to do. And then the second session we went out and ended up wet. And it was probably my first couple of times riding the wet in the 400. I've never really ridden the 600 a lot more than the wet, but we were out in the FB2 and we topped the session by 1.5 seconds or something. It was one of them ones that, because all year we were beating ourselves up and we were struggling to get inside the top 10, inside top 15. It was real soaring the confidence, and coming back in and being the fastest out of them, it was a nice feeling, and sort of it got our confidence back going again. To be fair, you needed that sort of to get us out. And then we went out into FB3, which we needed 0.04 to qualify into the main race for Saturday, and the track was drying. It was drying. It wasn't fully dry for the FB3 session, but we were getting. It was getting there, and we went out, and the track just wasn't dry enough to in a fast lap that was going to be faster than the FP1 one. But we still ended up second in that session. But it's just our confidence were up. We were feeling good, and even though we didn't qualify for the race, we went into the last chance race and we were in the position. Then unfortunately, I crashed in the last chance race. But it was that round that was sort of. It turned our season around, because after that we felt that we're fit to be up here with the right package, because we were always doubting ourselves all year, and after that we just knew ourselves that if everything's going right, then we can be there.
So would you say after topping that session, and by quite a distance, that's what helps you turn around the pace and get more comfortable in the class? Yeah, no, as I say, it was. After a hard season, my season it was just one of the ones that was beating the confidence up. It's just that I was having a real bad season with a bike, and I was just having a bad season, just not being able to get a proper bike set up, and not having the time before I had to put in a lap time. But after that round, we sort of started believing ourselves, if you say, and just go at it hard again. And that's when we started. Even we went to Maiden Cours the week. Or a couple of weeks after it, and we went out again. We got a second and a third on the Friday, and it was wet too. But even in the dry, we felt that we had the pace to go. So we did. We didn't want to be known as a wet weather specialist, if you know what I mean. It was But yeah, it was definitely Catalunya made me start to believe in myself again, and it was looking good. Yeah, and hopefully it will be good to see you carry that into next year. And on that topic, is there any plans in place for next year?
I've not signed yet. We sort of know what we want to do and what we have in plan, but it's just with all the coronavirus and all restrictions at the minute, we can't really put in place what we have. But I would say along the lines of the same as this year, because as I said, this year was a learning year. Next year, the year we have to get stuck in and show our true potential. So I hope to be back in it again. I don't really want to drop down to BSB to go into super sport again. I want to stay in a class where I'm learning, and it's making me a faster rider and improving my riding style. So I know it doesn't look it down the order, but it's the amount that's learning your riding style is unbelievable, and how much difference it's made to me, it's serious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the amount you can learn out there is incredible. I mean, would you potentially be looking to find a team that's been there a bit longer, a team that's more pronounced in the class?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's one of the things you never look down to. I can't really look past Team 19 at the minute because they've given me the opportunity to go in this year and learn and play with me. And for me to turn around and say next year, no, I don't want to go, it'd be very, very cruel of me because of the learning year we done. And it'd be sort of pointless on their behalf too, because what I've learnt with them, I maybe have to learn again with another team. They know what my riding style is like and what I like, and I would have to maybe take a year to learn that. So it's one of the ones that next year I hope to be with Team 19 again and the same thing again. But the year after that, we never know. We'll have to part at some stage. But at the minute, I'm happy with Team 19. Hopefully, we can do well in the championship and show what we can do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it'll be, really looking forward to see how you get on next year. Is it a long-term plan to stick around in 300 class for a few years, or are you looking into maybe moving up into World Supersport at some point?
I would love to get back onto a bigger bike again, to be fair. I don't know what it is. It's just like I enjoyed stock 600 last year in BSB, even though it was a sort of terrible year up until Cadwell. It was just we couldn't get the bike set up. But now after Cadwell onwards in BSB, we started to win races and we were always front pushing. So it was just I like riding the bigger bikes, but at the same time, when you're riding the 300, you're learning so much, and it's a good bike for learning the tracks on too. So we'll take that experience we have from the 300, and eventually I do want to move up to the 600 World Supersport. So we'll see how next year goes, and maybe the year after we'll look at 600. I definitely want to. I don't want to stay in 300s too long, to be fair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I can see the appeal of moving up to a bigger bike, but at the same time, you're gonna learn a hell of a lot in that World Supersport 300 class as well. So yeah, no, it's been really interesting to hear from you. We hope you do carry your late season success into next year, and I'm definitely going to be watching.
Yeah, thank you. No, hopefully.
Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
I'm Ryan Vickers.
Hi, I'm Ben Curry.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team, and you're listening to Motorsport Radio.
Well, it is Motorsport Radio. It is the Superbike Show. My name is Lester. Hello and welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in this evening, if you have indeed done so. Well, obviously you have, because you're listening to me. That was interesting. Eunan McGlinchey, we'll get on to talking about things he said in just a moment. Just before we do that, just want to say a big thank you to people already tuned in on the BSB and Sport Fans Facebook group, and on Motorsport Radio and on the motorsport.radio website as well. Hello to Gary. Dave Tyson's tuned in. He's obviously bored or something. I don't know. Hello, Dave. Sam Clowes talking about Jay's blue streak. Hello, good evening, Sam. Hello to Chris Chamberlain. Hello, and welcome if you're still tuned in. Probably not. Hannah Rowland. Hello to Ryan Smith as well, who wants Kieran Kent for Junior Supersport. No. Hello, Bradley Hicks and Alex. Get in touch, actually, Brad. Yeah, anyway. Dave Tyson having a little back and forth with Michael Howarth on the show, and Adam Freeman asks, Michael Howarth, are you sitting on the actual toilet?
You need to unmute him, I think.
Oh, yeah, you need to unmute yourself, Michael. I muted you earlier. He's never sounded so good. There you go. Who'd have ever thought? You need to unmute. You need to unmute yourself. Press the button on the thing. I can't unmute you. Press the microphone button.
Covered in piss. Hello, I'm back.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you was talking about what you did last night. Anyway. That was an interesting chat with old young Eunan. Thank you very much, by the way, for coming on the show. And takeaways from that, Tristan. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, it just highlights, because he was a very strong rider in the BSB paddock. I mean, he moved up to stock 6, did really well. He did. He's British champion as well. Won British Championship races in both stock 6 and in Junior Supersport. He's moved across to World Supersport 300, and I mean, personally, I think he's done extremely well. But it's just he's highlighted how difficult that step across is. Not just because the level over there is extremely high, but also because it's extremely different out there. I mean, the way the tracks are, the way they ride, the way they go about everything, and everything is to the detail, and they don't miss anything out there. And he's just highlighted how difficult it is to make that step across, and equally, it's difficult to make that step back into BSB as well, because you see a lot of good World Championship riders like Hector Barbero who come into the class and they struggle on BSB circuits because it's completely different as well in another way. So I mean, it was really interesting to hear from him about that and hear how difficult it's been for him to do that, because also he's done that as well with the BSB team. So not only has he been learning, the team's been learning at the same time. So I mean, that's definitely one thing to take away. He's sort of dropped in there that it sounds like he's going to be doing it again next year with the same team. So I mean he hasn't confirmed anything yet, but I'm pretty sure that's by what he said, that sounds like that's the way he's going to be going.
So he's still, I guess, living the dream. And well, you've been quite insightful. I would normally at this point probably ask a bit of a dumb question like, well, what's the point if you're not really up at the front on the top step? But you explained eloquently so, Tristan, that I think he's just being in the atmosphere, in the paddock, really. And
you learn so much out there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally get that aspect of it. But best of luck anyway. Eunan. I will get his name right eventually. I probably won't. Thank you for coming on the show. It's greatly appreciated. It is the Superbike show. If you just wandered in or not wandered in from the pub, you can't do that anymore. But just rolled up from watching whatever's on TV nowadays. I'm a Celebrity or whatever. Coronation Street or Strictly.
I'm a Celebrity's back soon.
Oh, joy. From Wales this time, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a joy. Christ, so
you'll be watching that. Anyway.
Come on, I've only got about 10 minutes left, and then I've got to go and walk my dog.
Police in the area on standby. Anyway, moving on then, because we will move on and talk about some Moto Gp. Tristan.
Yeah, MotoGP. I mean, the biggest thing that's come out in MotoGP as of recent is Dovi taking that year out. I mean, we already spoke a little bit about it earlier on, and Michael told us all about why that was. But Lester, you've got a bit of a theory that he might be going somewhere bit closer to home?
Yes, obviously. I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but there is a hot rumour, and this is not coming from me.
It's about as hot as you are to women, Lester. Get over it.
Piss off with your dog. Anyway, but yeah, no, there is a small possibility that he could go into BSB.
I don't see it personally.
No.
Not gonna lie.
Who would? Well,
when every single World Superbike team will be fighting over him. They'd be
well, where are they?
Not now to get him.
Well, where are they?
Huh?
Where are they now?
Well, because he's not interested in going. He won't go to Worlds. He's turned down test rides because he stuck by his guns and said he wanted to go and do the Italian Motocross Championship. He's hardly going to turn up at OMG, is he? Going, hello there.
Why not? What's wrong with OMG? They've got big aspirations.
Nothing wrong with it, and I don't even want to say that Dovizioso would believe it's beneath him, but no, let's.
Well,
they've got lovely hospitality.
Well, I mean, Scott Redding did it. He came directly from Moto GP when all of his avenues were exhausted.
Yeah, but Scott was still young enough to go to kind of come to BSB and go back. It's like the Neil Hodgson syndrome. Neil got to 500 Grand Prix or World Superbikes and had a terrible time there. And he was the first rider that got told off his manager, Roger Burnett, to come back to BSB, regroup and restart. And he did. And he made it all the way back to MotoGP, did Neil Hodgson. It was just the fact that the Dantine team he was with, which is now Pramac, was just absolutely shocking at the time. They were running cracked carbon discs and everything. They had no money, and it was horrendous. Scott's a completely different entity. He's very young. Like we touched on before about riders going to the World Series and it being a whole learning process for them and learning how it works and goes on. Yeah, I think it's harder for an older rider towards the end of the career to come to British than it is for a younger rider to go the other way. And Scott's kind of proved that. Scott came young and hungry and eager. Hector Barbera, when he got to Cadwell Park, must have crapped himself and just thought, what the hell's going on here? You know, they won't do it. Scott had to put his balls to the wall himself, and he'll admit it that a few of the tracks scared him. But Scott's got an agenda where he wants to get back to MotoGP or be at least the best rider in World Superbikes. The older end, they're not interested and will not take that chance.
I don't know. I mean, it could be an interesting year between World Championships, like what Redding did.
Like what Redding did. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But we know that Dovizioso's definitely not come to British. He's going to do what he's going to do. So, next question.
He's having a year off in front of the sofa, like Michael.
Yeah.
Just the one.
I've had a year off since 2016 in front of the sofas and to snap myself in half. I'd still like to come back, though, if Dave Tyson's got any rides going.
We had him as a guest a couple of weeks ago. He has got some rides going.
Has he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I suggested he take on...
race, and it didn't sit well. But no, he's a good friend, and he runs a good ship, and it's about time Dave got a bit of luck, to be quite honest. Jumping off the what's it, but no, I'm not tempting him or bigging him up, but yeah, no, Dave deserves a bit of luck.
Yes, we do agree with that. Definitely, he's a good guy, is Dave, and yeah, I noticed he shut me down completely when I suggested that Tristan is still, looking for a ride. Wink, wink. Next year, but anyway,
I need a better manager.
You don't have? Who's your manager?
You were trying to be my manager, giving me away to Dave Tyson.
We didn't agree the 10%.
Oh, okay, that must have been what it is.
What's 10% of nothing?
It's got a point.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Moto GP then, and any thoughts on where Dovey might go? Might he actually do what he says he will do and just take an actual sabbatical and a year out and come back? Will there be any places for him? Will MotoGP have forgotten about him? Will I don't know? Could someone else, maybe a Brit coming up through the ranks, seem to push out? Yeah, don't know. It's like musical chairs, literally.
It's probably going to be Rossi's last year at racing next year, so maybe there might be a ride.
The internet has just exploded at that comment. There you go. So
Petronas Yamaha might have a ride going for 2022 if Rossi decides to call it a day.
Now then, will it be Petronas Yamaha in 2022? That's the question.
It'll be OMG. Nathan,
OMG. There's
in Moto GP. Why not?
I heard something a week or two ago about this, that maybe Petronas may become the Suzuki satellite team because they're not happy about one or two things that's gone on with Yamaha and them over the last 12 months. Rossi is, I think you're right, I think he will retire at the end of 2021. I think the passion is just not there now. I think it was at the start of the year, and I think it's just dwindled this year. Maybe it's because of the lack of fans, and we know what Ross is like with his fans and stuff. But it's dwindled. I think this last year he's basically bought the 2 seats at Aventino Ducati for next season, and I think the agreement is next year they're going to walk up into the distance. He's dropped his Sky VR46 Moto 3 team to give that to Aventia so that they'll give their grid stops up, and I think it's going to become Sky VR46 Yamaha team in 2022, and I think that Petronas will be with Suzuki.
You heard it here first.
Reading between the lines, I'm completely wrong because everything I predicted so far this year has been wrong, but that's what I'm saying.
Wasn't it you originally that floated the rumour about Hitman going to OMG as well? I know we keep talking about OMG a lot, but...
Well, no, it weren't, because I knew that it were never going and I knew what were happening, so no, I didn't float.
Well, why didn't you tell us?
Did you ask? It's only because you're scraping the barrel tonight because Carl Rye won't come on and I've got a chance to come and talk crap on here again. If you'd have messaged me on Henry, what's happening, I might have told you, but no.
Well, when we do ask you, you're like, I can't possibly say that Brad Ray is going to OMG.
I can tell you, and then your sources are known, but now everyone knows. Shit. Yeah.
Anyway.
It's gone back. Come on, move on to Cal. Let's find it.
Yeah. Anyway, what's going on with Cal?
With Cal, well, it looks as if there's only one ride left on the grid, isn't there? And that's Aprilia. So if there is no seat at him for Aprilia, now there's no Iannone, so he's not going to be taking that seat. And I'm pretty sure that ride for Aprilia is between Cal, and there was a bit of a rumor floating around that Lorenzo might go there, but I think Cal would be. Cal Crutchlow is a safer bet.
Lorenzo to me seems a bit like the same sort of figure in Formula One anyway, about Fernando Alonso.
Bigger as you, Lester. He ain't going to Aprilia.
he had a test not so long ago. He really struggled, didn't he?
It was 3 and a bit seconds off the pace, weren't he?
Yeah.
I know he took the role on. He should take it fairly seriously, but then he got told after the coronavirus thing that he wasn't going to be testing for most of the year, and they weren't going to bring a 2020 bike over for him. So I think he's made the most out of his coronavirus lockdown. And then when it came to him doing the European test a few weeks ago, he was very much off the pace. And I can understand why Yamaha didn't give him the wild card, because I think he annoyed a lot of the top. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he didn't. And Jeff Gerloff did very well. I think he ended up 19th overall after FP2, but. There was some showings of brilliance, and what he explained about the way the M1 works to the R1 was really cool. But no, Lorenzo's not going to go to Aprilia. I think that's a smoke screen. Cal had signed a pre-contract agreement not to speak to any other teams with Aprilia. Apparently got sick of waiting for them to make the decision because of the Iannone thing. Then went and spoke to Yamaha because that was a testing role, so he was allowed to speak to them. And whether this is pie in the sky again, apparently he's as close as he can be to signing a 2-year deal to ride for Yamaha as their test rider and get the 5 wildcards a year, which one may make sense because Cal's daughter's about to go to school. He gets to spend more time at home, and it gives his body time to recover. But then, as Cal got unfinished business, and if Aprilia didn't give him the right deal, because we know what they like contractually, the way that they treated Scott and Sam Lowes, if they gave him the right deal, that bike could be something. It could be a lot better than where it is. KTM have shown that with money and persistence and the right riders on it, it can go somewhere. Aprilia just seem to get lost and bully the rider that's not the number 1 rider.
Oh, is it too out of the sort of water to assume or think that he might ever go back to World Superbike?
No, Cal's definitely not. He's going to one or two places. It'll be the Aprilia team or as a test rider for Yamaha. I think I'm right. And if I'm wrong, someone will shoot me down. But it's Aprilia next year. They're going to be a full factory team. They drop in the connection with us. Is it Asper? Who they're with?
Grassini, yeah.
Grassini, yeah. I think they're dropping that. They become a full factory team, don't they? Which then, if that was going to happen, then I think Cal would be daft not to at least give it a go for a season with a get-out. If he got a 2-year deal and there was a get-out clause at the end of the year, like this bike's crap, I'm off, then fair dues. But we've yet to see. There seems to be a lot of rumours going around about that Lorenzo was never going to sign, Dovi was never going to sign because they can't afford either of them. And I don't think Lorenzo or Devuzzi also would want to. But Cal, with his mindset and knowing him, he'd probably grab the bull by the horns and go, I'll do this. If you give me what I want, I'll show you this thing can be done. Yeah, well,
it makes sense. He's been a grafter, so to have him, in either role would be, I would be beneficial to either team. Just gonna go back onto the Valencia GP that, and back onto sort of the championship this year. It looks as if now Suzuki might be winning the championship.
Yeah, and very deservedly so. I actually watched the 2016 British Grand Prix the other night that Viñales won.
Yeah.
And the way that the championship's been run this year because of the coronavirus has actually very much suited the Suzuki because we've not gone to any ridiculously hot tracks. And that bike, since its inception, since it came back, has always run well on slightly cooler circuits. And if you look at the races we've had this year, there's not been many tracks where the track temperature's been really high. So Valencia last weekend, the track temperature was fairly low. I'd say if we went to Thailand, to Buriram or somewhere like that. So this season has actually been a really good season for the Suzuki to prove its worth. The Honda is known for liking high track temperatures. The Yamaha hates them, but everything seems to have to be perfect within a very small margin for Yamaha to work at the moment.
Yep.
So yeah, the Suzuki's definitely, they've taken advantage of the conditions for this season, and I think not only should they be the Constructors' Champion, they deserve to have Mir or Rins win.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that as well about how it's suited them, how the conditions have suited Suzuki this year more than anyone else. Because I'm pretty sure it was Viñales who was saying that the Yamaha only really works on a certain tyre and only like a certain track temperature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it works in a very small window. It's like back when, in the 1950s, when I was racing and Fred Flintstone was still a good cartoon to watch. The BMW at the time, that worked in a very small window. And if it wasn't, everything wasn't exactly as it needed to be, you'd be nowhere. You'd be absolutely nowhere. I never was, but the faster riders.
Yeah.
Nowhere. Yeah. So it's, like you say, maybe this season has played into Suzuki's hands, but they've also shown that they've not buckled under pressure. They just kept going. David Brown, the team manager, team boss, is a great guy. Yeah, it's basically their time, I think. Next year may not be as easy for them if we do a full World Championship, even though all the bikes will be the same.
Yeah, and it's been dead interesting without having Marquez there, because obviously everyone has now seen this as their chance to be able to go and win a title, and obviously one man that's really been trying to capitalise on that was Quartararo, but like we've been saying, with the Yamaha only working in certain conditions, in certain track temperatures on a certain tyre, is really struggled to be consistent, and that crash at the last race at Valencia is pretty much, I think it's safe to say, he's pretty much lost the championship now.
Yeah, definitely. I certainly think so. He's only, if he's not on the podium, or if he wins and Mir gets on the podium, Mir's won full stop, hasn't he? So
yeah.
And I can't see there being a big turnaround for next week, for this weekend, for Quartararo to walk away with it and Mir not be second or third.
No, anything can happen, but yeah, like you say, it's not looking likely at all. And one interesting thing as well. That was actually happening during the races. Apparently, they've been having this new hole shot device that Ducati's brought in. Apparently, on Quartararo's bike, the hole shot device was engaging by itself during the race, and that was one reason why he was struggling, which seems like a massive, quite a rookie error for a team in a World Championship.
No, that's weird, because they have to be manually operated. They're not electrically on it, so you'd think if it was falling, like I know what you mean, if it was squatting on its own, surely you'd be able to grab it and kind of turn it off. That's a bit odd, that. Because I know the Cative's taking it one stage further where they can drop theirs when they're coming onto a straight now. I've seen a lot of the pictures. I don't think Yamaha do that. I might be wrong. Franco Morbidelli's only just got that as well. He got that for I think it was for Valencia.
Yeah.
It's like his little reward, because he's been on a 19 spec bike all season. Yamaha didn't offer it him, and then when he won a couple of races, as Yamaha do, they take you under the wing and go, "Oh, you're the new, our new friend," and give it him finally. So yeah, a bit weird.
Okay. Yeah, and he was the best Yamaha back at Valencia as well, in 11th, but still best Yam.
Yeah. But it seems to be that every single Yamaha rider complained about something being very wrong at Valencia. Which again is interesting itself, because the tyre that was brought out, was it the front? I'm pretty sure it was the rear. The tyres brought out for this season were brought out, and everyone said they would favour the inline 4 as opposed to the V4. And yes, it seems to favour Suzuki, but Yamaha they're all at sea, aren't they? I mean, the thing with the valves, how can they? How was that such a cock-up? That just seems like something they thought they'd be able to get away with. Then they got busted. Then they tried to ask the other teams if they could open an engine to do this and that and the other. And then they just conceded and gone, we've made a bit of a cock-up here. And I think they're lucky they got away with just championship points from the team part rather than the riders. Seems a whole lot of cocking up to me.
Yeah, and they had a penalty for that, where they had 2 engines taken away as well. And with the reliability problems that they've been having this year, they really can't do with having less engines.
No, well, Vinales has took a 6th on it, so he had to start from pit lane. Rossi's not done enough laps or finished enough laps, so he'll get through to the end of the season. He'll be fine, especially after missing the 2 rems. That saved a lot of mileage on him, so Rossi will be okay. I think you may well see Quartararo try and get through this weekend without having to take a 6th engine. But if he doesn't win the championship at Portimao, he will go into that taking a grid the pit lane start penalty. He will have to take a new engine, and maybe the same with Morbidelli.
Yeah, and then it'll be interesting to see how that translates into next year, because obviously there's going to be little or to no sort of development from this year to next year, so that they may very well just still be having tons of reliability problems next year as well.
Yeah, I can't remember which way around it was with the valves. Whether they put these new valves in and that's what had blown, and they've gone back to the original. I can't just remember which way around without looking, but it'll be something they will be able to cure, even if it means a few less revs. But last year we saw that was no detriment to Fabio Quartararo the way he was riding, because you were allowed 7 engines normally, and he only got 5 last year in his quarter anyway, because that's all that Petronas had paid for. So they just turned his engines down, and they turned them up towards the end of the season when he got the carbon forks. So if they know they've got a problem, they can deal with it in the first instance. What they did at Areth was they didn't know these engines were going to blow, so they were turned up to full power, if you like. Yeah,
and I mean, one thing that's been a big problem with them as well has been straight line speed, and I mean, trying to get more power out of something, and then having reliability problems. It's hard to see them actually moving forward into more seasons.
Yeah, I mean, they can work a lot on the electronics program. They can work a lot on the chassis setup to give them better exit, better cornering speed. So there are things they can do without having to develop an engine. It's just how far the other teams do exactly the same thing. They've all got outright speed. Do they think the Yamaha are going to be a contender next year? Probably. So they may well work on things you never stop testing. But yeah, they've been on the back foot for a number of years, and it's bit them in the arse now. And it's when they are allowed to start developing, there's no stopping them developing a bike in Japan now ready for 2022. So that's, if I was Yamaha, that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, I mean, with them struggling so much now, it begs the question as to what actually is the best bike now. I mean, Suzuki been very, very strong this year, but like you say, the temperatures, the track conditions have suited them. Honda seems like a bike that only Marquez can ride, although Nakagami's been doing all right lately.
Well, it was, and it was touched on. I think Kel mentioned it, but there's been a brand new shock Öhlins released it last year, new rear shock, and Suzuki took it straight away, and apparently it was really hard to set up in the first instance, but once it got working, it worked really well. Honda got given it and rejected it straight away. Then when Marquez crashed, injured himself this year and come back, they brought it back in. Nakagami's speed come from it, and then Alex Marquez's speed come from it, so they've stuck with it. It's a new link and a new rear shock, and it seems to work. Cal is far too injured at the minute to give. He'll be able to give him good feedback, but he's too injured to do anything with it, if you know what I mean. I know he's crashed and he's not had any decent finishes, but Cal's he's crippled at the minute. He's worse than me, bless him. So if Honda now take that on board and listen to their other riders instead of just keeping developing the bike for Marquez like they have been doing, then next year you may well see Nakagami gets a 2020 bike, which is only an uprated engine per se, because all the bikes this year went back to the 19 spec chassis, which they've got to stick with for next year. I think you'll see the direction of the Honda make it so that it's not just a Marquez whitewash and all the Hondas are playing second fiddle. I think you may well see his brother win another race next year. Nakagami should win a race, and Paul Espargaro should certainly be put into the mix. I think he'll do well.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, the world according to Michael Howarth. There you go.
Yes, I remember writing my soapbox, but I've not been on for ages, and I need to go shortly. So if I can leave you guys with it,
so that's our cue to just shut up and
tell me to go.
Go to the chippy before. Oh, you can't now. It's all lockdown.
No, chippies are open. Of course they are. You're mad.
I don't know. So just eat on your phone straight on. Anyway, thank you anyway.
I live that far out in the hills, Lester. This is God's honest truth. We don't have Uber Eats. We don't have Uber taxis. My nearest McDonald's is 12 miles away. The nearest KFC is 15 miles away. We don't have Just Eat. I've got one Chinese and 2 Indians. That's your lot.
How far away is your local Wetherspoons? Obviously, that's not open at the moment.
Well, it's across road. Everywhere's got a Wetherspoons. Don't be mad.
It takes you longer to walk to the toilet.
Exactly. Right.
But yeah, thank you for coming on.
Listen, I've got before I do go.
All right,
Lester, you will have seen this. I'm pretty sure, and I'm trying to find the link now, but I'll put it on my Facebook after. A close friend of mine died not so long since. A girl called Chelsea Ora Hobbs. Her boyfriend raced in British Superstock and stuff. They've after her death, there's a bit of a Just Giving page that goes to the air ambulance. I'll post a link on my Facebook for anyone that's watching. But she was a lovely girl, an amazing girl. Her boyfriend Chris is a top bloke. So if I post something on Facebook after, if you could all have a look at it and just have a look at it. If you want to put some money in, do. But it's all for racing. It's all for the air ambulance, and she was a good girl.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get that shared. Post the link up, and we'll let you get off to walk your dog.
Walk your dog.
Walking my dog, yes. All right. Yeah. Thanks ever so much for having me. I hope to see you all again soon.
No problem at all. Bye. Thank you for coming on the show tonight on the live Superbike show. Woo. And then just like that, we are just 3. Because anyway, but thank you anyway. If you're still tuned in live. I know one person who's tuned in, or he was at one point before. He probably just thought, this isn't as good as when I was on it. Kiko Giles, who made his CV commentary debut a couple of weeks ago.
I was listening.
Yes, I was listening as well. Him and Steve English doing the final round at wherever it was. I forgot now.
Valencia. Was it Valencia?
Wherever.
No,
I don't know where it was. Doing a pretty fine job, which is always good to see. Former presenter of the Superbike show and journalist. And listen to the breakfast show Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's an audio-only thing, so it's a stream and you can listen on your phone and your laptop or wherever, or on the go, on demand and all that. But it is a live radio stream, 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. It is the breakfast show, Motorsport Radio. It's packed full of information, mostly useless information, some great stories, quizzes, and all that there cheesy radio stuff. And Kiko's on it as well. So there you go. He's not entirely left Motorsport Radio just yet. So hello to Ryan Lilly and Nat Jarvis as well. name check for you guys. And so we're still not finished with the guests, because coming up shortly, Tristan, will be...
Superstock 1000 rider for Aprilia. Lewis Rollo will be coming on very shortly, and any minute now he should be. He should be coming on. He says he's ready to go. He's just messaging me now.
Okay, so we'll I guess we will fill in the old. Michael has actually gone. Literally gone. So there we go. I've lost my boxes now. See, this is what happens when you get too many guests on. We were all set for 3 guests. That's what I'm used to. So you get 2 guests or whatever. So now I'm doing all that. And I can hear in the background we have Lewis Rollo. Lewis, could you do us a really big favour? Could you turn your phone sideways? Mega.
Is that better?
Let me have a look here. Right, so some technical stuff going on here on the show. Tristan, do you want to introduce Mr. Rollo officially?
Yeah, so Superstock 1000 rider for Aprilia, Lewis Rollo joining us on the show for tonight. How are we, Lewis?
I am good. You?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. What's keeping you busy at the moment?
Just busy with work. Now that the racing season's finished, we're flat out working up in Scotland, just trying to get people moved back into their houses for Christmas.
Yeah, and quite a season it's been for you as well. Just run us through how your 2020 season has been.
Yeah, it's my second year in competition Aprilia, and we managed to finish 3rd in the championship, get a win at Oulton Park, a 2nd place, a 2nd again at Donington, lead quite a few races through the season, and managed to be consistent and up the front. And to be fair, it's been a mega year for me, being in kind of the title chase and finishing top 3. It was kind of my next goal, and to manage that, we were really happy with it.
Yeah, did you expect to be as competitive as you were this year?
Well, last year we had quite a good year as well, finishing 6th. We got a win. We were up the front fighting for podiums, but just that wee bit was missing. And I think this year we got some more testing, and being a second year with a team, that was something I had never done before, and it kind of let you hit the ground running. And with the shorter season, I think it definitely was one of our advantages, and to get going and be at the front straight away, fighting for podiums, it made the season a bit better, but also as well to be consistent through the year with settings we had from last year. It just made it a bit easier to manage to clinch 3rd in the championship.
Yeah, and you say, I mean, this year you had that extra little bit that you were perhaps missing last year. What would you say brought that on?
I think just experience. 21-year-old, another year's experience under my belt. The team have taught me so much as a rider. We know the bike's good from when Joe Colley or Andy Reid was on it. They obviously won races fighting for the championship on it, so we know the team and the bike's good enough. So I think me as a rider just had to keep improving and learning. Obviously last year with people like Richard Cooper, Taylor McKenzie, Lee Jackson in the championship, you're learning a lot off of them riders. And then at the same time battling with Chrissy Rouse, Tom Neve, Tim Neve, people who are wanting to try and move forward, and they're learning all the time and getting stronger. So this year we knew it was going to be just as hard as ever. A shortened season, everybody wanting to go for it. So it was some mega racing, and some of the races was just crazy. Ex-world champion Danny Kent in it battling Billy McConnell, just lots of different kind of riders all trying to win races, and it was some exciting racing all season.
Yeah, and you know, the stock 1000 class is always a really interesting one to watch as well. It's always one that, you know, in myself, I always make sure I go to watch that, whether it's trackside or on the player. What's it like in a race like that when you're up against, you know, riders like Danny Kent?
It's at the start of the year, Danny was in front of me at Donington, and he had started on pole position, but he came back, and I can remember watching him when he raced in Moto 3, and in Moto 3 used to drop back and sit in 15th position, just at like the back of the leading group, and then he would work his way forward. And I seen him come back to, I think it was 5th, and I was sitting in 6th. And I knew exactly what he was doing just watching them, but I knew that Stock 1000 was just a dogfight, and he didn't do that. So I thought, I need to move forward here, so I managed to do that. But it is, sometimes I've been in the situation where I've been trying to be smarter and keep my tyre for the end of the race, or we've looked at it and thought we're really consistent doing these lap times, but then all of a sudden in the race, people have managed to find another 0.2 of a second, 0.3 a second, and move forward. So you have to do that as well, or you're just going to get beaten up and fall back in the pack. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, 2 years now with Ian Newton's team. What's it like working with a team like Ian Newton's, where obviously you've come through the Aprilia Super Teens and the Aprilia 450s? What's it like then going back to working with those same people that you sort of started your career out with? Yeah, well, it was a nice thing. When Ian phoned me 2 years ago asking me if I'd be interested in a ride, it was quite nice, because I knew I was going into a team where I already knew the people like I'd be working with. So Ian Newton, obviously team owner, Myra, his wife. There was Richard from Maxton, Alex from the 450s, Louis Dawson from the 450s, Will Hodson. So even the mechanics I used to race against when I was younger. And then moving forward, just getting to know the guys obviously last season, it then helped going into this season. And people like Johnny Blackshaw, Adam Jenkinson, they've been in Stock 1000 for numbers of years, and the experience they've got, them helping me moving forward, it's helped me a lot as a rider. And that's definitely one thing I've looked for kind of my full career, is just having someone beside me and helping me, guiding me in kind of the right direction. And it's definitely something I kind of want for the future, being with a nice team, because it definitely helps having good guys in your corner to help you obviously fight for podiums, wins and championships. Yeah, and then I mean, obviously, your relationship with the teams is an extremely important thing. So, would you say it's helped you with your racing, coming back straight into a team where you pretty much already knew most of the guys? Nah, definitely. Like Ian, I've known since I was 12-year-old in the Aprilia Super Teens. When I won the championship, he gave me a 450 to race the next again season. So for him to sponsor me a bike when I was 13-year-old to then race in the 450 championship, and I was on that for a couple of years, finished 4th in the Thundersport championship, won a couple of Scottish Super Twin championships on the 450, and then moved up to 600. But Ian's always spoke about trying to help young riders, and instead of bringing someone back from Superbikes, putting them on the bike to maybe win the championship, he wants to try and bring up and coming riders onto the bikes and teach them. And I think it's helped me a lot knowing that he wants to help me obviously move forward, but also progress in my career. And if I do move on or move with another team, move into Superbikes, he's behind me 100% and just wants the best for me and the other riders he helps. Yeah, no. So I mean, Ian's done a hell of a lot in the scene for young kids. I mean, Aprilia Super Team's been around for a long time. But before I ask you anything else, I think I'm just going to let Jay come in, because I think he's got something he'd like to ask you.
Hello, Lewis. How's it going, buddy?
Not bad, yeah.
Yeah, not bad. I just want to start off by saying you have the best sounding bike on the grid. Do you ever get bored of that sound?
Well, I turned up to my first test, and Ian Newton was like, if you're not wearing earplugs, you're not sitting on the ride, you're not racing it. So my first test, I rode it without earplugs, and the thing just sounded unreal. Obviously, coming off a Ducati Tri-Options bike that sounded like a tractor onto the Aprilia, just such a nice, smooth bike, just the power delivery. I raced a ZX10 in 2017, and the Aprilia is just a totally different bike, and the sound of it's just unreal. You can still obviously hear it with your earplugs in, but as you get used to it, it's not the best. But then when you watch, like I watched my teammate David Allingham at the start of the year at Oulton Park on a test day, and he came past and it was in the wet and the bike's spinning up and you can hear it just trying to get traction, and it's a mega bit of kit, and I love the bike. It's obviously last year getting used to it. It's the best 1,000 I've ever rode, and then obviously my second year on it, just kind of gelling with the bike and getting more used to it. It's a beautiful bike to race.
Talking about, you just touched on the wet there. Obviously, these 2 seasons you've been on the Aprilia, a lot of your really good results and performances have been in the wet. Do you feel comfortable in the wet? You seem to make it look really easy. I think it was your first year. Was it Oulton Park or Brands Hatch? You came from quite a way back and won the race by a good gap in the end.
Last year, well, my first podium in Stock 600, I'm sure that was in the wet at Oulton Park, and I don't know. People say it's the Scottish side of it.
Yeah.
In the rain, it's a hard one. I think it's just pure luck. It's kind of who stays on. It's hard. You're on a 200 brake horsepower bike. You've not had any testing in the wet. The team's not had any time to set up electronics, traction control, anything like that. So you kind of go in on a blank canvas, and I think it's a lot down to kind of the rider with your hand in your throttle and having a lot of trust in the bike. And I think it's where I can kind of go in, and you're more down to the Aprilia as well. Such a smooth, nice bike to ride. It just makes it a bit easier to ride in the wet. But I've kind of got a wee system I go through in my head to go into the wet. Go out, try and get a clear track, get to the front as quick as I can, not watch people have moments. As soon as I think you see someone have a moment, it kind of plays in your head. So I like the wet. You just go out, have fun, slide about, and hope for the best. And half the time I've come out quite lucky, and we're on the podium, if not winning races.
Well, if you move up to BSB and it starts raining, I'll definitely be putting some bets on you to win the race.
I think it is good, and I think when the rain comes, people worry about it, but I think it's the same for everybody, and you have to just go out and head down and go for it. But I think the Superbike, that is one thing I would love to have a shot of. Obviously, with no electronics and then in the wet, I think it'll be quite a fun bike to try and tame.
Cheers, Lewis.
Obviously, I mean, going back to the bike a little bit, I mean, you've said how much you love it, and you know it's a brilliant bike to look at and to listen to and to watch. What's it like? Because obviously, I mean, it was just you and David. What's it like being one of the only Aprilias out there?
Yeah, it's a hard one. Last year, Levi Day was my teammate, and he was actually a really good teammate because we raced each other in the Ducati Tri-Options. We both moved into Stock 1000 at the same time. We both kind of had the same goal. We were always kind of round about each other on the timesheets and then in the races as well. same with David at the start of this year. I knew he was going to be strong. Moving back from Superbikes, the experience he gained from being in Superbikes and then from his previous years in Supersport, I knew they were good guys to kind of learn off, both of them older than me, more experienced. So it was nice to have teammates like that and kind of chase them, learn off them, have them to work with. And it is hard. It would be good to have more Aprilias on the grid because they are a good bike. Ian Newton gives as much support as he can to other people who do turn up with the bike. And I think people underestimate them, to be honest. I think they've won a world championship. They came out in 2011, the bike, the model, and they've improved over the years. And if you think they were V4 way back then, and it's only now the Ducatis have started going V4 and talks about Yamaha, Honda maybe in the future going to V4s as well. But the Aprilia is a nice narrow bike, more like the 250 Grand Prix bikes. I think in stock 1000, that's one bit we may be struggling, is where we want to carry that mid-corner speed. The BMWs, Kawasaki's, they stop mid-corner and then use the torque just driving out. So it's hard. On a clear lap in qualifying, you can get your mid-corner speed, keep the bike flowing, and then all of a sudden in the race, the gearing's too long because you've been carrying that mid-corner speed and now you're having to stop mid-corner, or even if you're heavy on the brakes, whereas in qualifying you've been letting the brakes off, running the speed through, then in the race when the BMs or whatever stop mid-corner and you have to keep the brake on just that wee bit longer, you then start having moments. And it is quite hard racing people like Billy McConnell. He goes into the corner, stops, and then fires it out. And it's kind of the opposite way that I try and ride the Aprilia. So it makes it hard in some ways, but then other times it can play in our favour.
Does it change your sort of race strategy then, having to sort of almost avoid other bikes mid-corner?
Well, it's my qualifying last year was just appalling. If I could get in the front 3 rows, then I'd be happy. I think just experience, learning how to put that one lap together, getting all the bits clicked and getting that lap time that you have to get on the front 2 rows. And this year's definitely helped. Second year with the bike and team, we've managed to kind of start the weekend off stronger, and we've had a few front row starts this year and then more in the front 2 rows, front 3 rows, more consistent. And I think getting a good start at the start of the race, getting up in that leading group definitely helps us. But if I could get maybe into the lead and get a free lap, or like kind of Oulton Park, I managed to get away with Chrissy, get past them, and then I had clear track so I could run that mid-corner speed, and especially on a track like Oulton Park with the chicanes and fast flowing kind of circuit, I managed to hit my apexes and pull away and managed to win the race. And circuits like Thruxton, Silverstone, when you've got a nice big wide track, you can let the bike run that extra metre wide and maybe run round the outside of someone who's trying to square their bike off and cut the corner tight.
Has there been much development on the bike? Because obviously, I mean, it's a bit of an old bike now.
Yeah, well, last year, the bike's still the same this season as it was last year. Over the years, it was more, I think the bike started off in 2009 with 150 brake horsepower, whereas now it's just over 200. They've changed the headstock angle, back linkage. We're obviously allowed to change the electronics to kit ECU in stock 1000 now. Some rule changes were made, things like that. So the bike's changed differently over the years. And obviously now with the new Hondas coming out, the new BMWs, possibly this new Kawasaki, you don't know how these bikes are going to change or how much an advantage they're going to have. But you look at the lap times Danny Buchan was doing 3 or 4 years ago on an old ZX10. We're still doing the same lap times now. So the way I look at it, there's so many manufacturers, so many different riders, different setups, different teams, and we all go around the track within half a second of each other. It's so close, and I think it's down to your relationship with the team, the bike, and your confidence, how you're going and moving forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, also looking into sort of next season, and future, will we expect to see many upgrades come in the way of the Aprilia? I mean, I know looking over to the CIV Championship with Savadori, we've seen them over there experimenting with things. I think they've even had wings on the bike. Can we expect to see anything like that coming into VSB, to your knowledge?
Well, Salvadori's actually been running the 1100 over in the Europeans, so he managed to get in the rules because it was in the Superbikes. He's managed to run the 1100 but have it restricted on the revs or the power, just so they were on the more modern bike that Aprilia now produces. It's obviously a lot of money for a manufacturer to design a full new bike, just so it's more competitive in stock 1000. It's a hard one. It's obviously a good looking bike. It's people who like Aprilias, they love them. It's kind of like a Ducati, man. They buy the bike because they love it, love the sound, love the way it looks, and I don't think Aprilia would really change anything. That's why they've obviously built this 660 and designed it off the RSV4 and put the kind of same bodywork, fairing shape on the 660.
Yeah, and quickly, before we go, what can we expect to see from you next season? Any plans?
I'm talking to a couple of teams just now. Obviously, Aprilia, I've got a relationship with them. I love the guys, love the team. So the amount they've taught me over the last couple of seasons has been amazing, but obviously we're at that sharp end now. We've finished top 3 in the championship, and my next goal would be to try and win stock 1000, and there is another couple of teams talking to me, maybe seeing if I'd be interested to obviously have that title fight on their bike. And see what we can do, but I've got nothing sorted yet. I would love, obviously every rider's dreams, to move up into Superbikes, but I think it's being in the right place at the right time with the right team, and I want to make sure I'm ready, and I think right now I've still got a wee bit to learn, and I think another year in stock 1000 would definitely help me, and if we can win the championship, then it's something that you've kind of got in your bag, and if you do move forward and you're a champion, I think it kind of helps you in a way, but also just that extra year's experience, so then put me in kind of maybe the right direction if I did get the chance to go into British Superbikes.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a very, very mature plan you got there, and we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on your announcements and where you do end up going, whether it is Aprilia or wherever you do so. So I think thanks a lot for coming on. Does anyone else have any questions for Rollo?
Yeah, I've got one more. In stock 1000 over the years, a lot of it has been down to you've got to be really consistent to be there at the end of the season with your results. How do you find especially what Sam Lowes has just realised last weekend by being in it at Valencia, how do you find it in races where you might think, I need to go for this win, or hold back and just go for the points? How do you find that level playing field with not crashing sort of thing?
That's what I've kind of found hard this season, because last year the guys at the front were more experienced. Richard Cooper, Taylor McKenzie, Lee Jackson, they've all been in Superbikes. They've all got they've all been British Stock 1000 champions. So when I was sitting in 4th place behind them, following them, I was learning off them, watching them, trying to save my tyre for the end of the race. But where I was getting excited and putting the power on, they were kind of being clever and just knew that they had to set a pace, and then at the end of the race they were always stronger than me. And going into this year, that's one thing I worked on, but then turned up at round one and it was all just boys wanting a dogfight and handlebar to handlebar. And at the first round, I came together with Matt Truelove and Richard Cooper, and me and Matt Truelove ended up coming off. I was sitting in 5th position at the time, and at the end of the season, going into, well, at the second last round, depending on my results, I could have actually fought for the championship. And it's not until after the season you think, if I had stayed on in that race at Donington and hadn't had that DNF, I would have actually finished second in the championship, because Tom Neve unfortunately came off in the last race of the year. So it is hard. It's such a
fine line
path as it is, because you have to fight, and you make one mistake and you could drop back to 5th or 7th place. But you look at Chrissy Rouse, he stayed consistent, he stayed on the bike, he never crashed out of one race this year, and I think that obviously just gave him that little edge on everybody else. Tom Neve, he won the most races, got the most podiums, but then he had came off, and the other races he had were just further down the field, whereas Chrissy was more consistent, podium each weekend. And I think that's what I need to work the next year, is just being consistent on the podium rather than being consistent in the top 5.
Cheers, Lewis.
Yeah, points make prizes. You've got to be in it to win it and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for coming on, Lewis, and telling us what your season's been like. And hopefully we can keep in touch over the winter and maybe get you back on and talk about some more of your successes next season as well.
No, definitely. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
Right, this is the Superbike Show. It is Motorsport Radio, and we will continue.
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
I'm Ryan Vickers. Hi, I'm Ben Curry.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team, and you're listening to Motorsport Radio.
Thank you very much for still staying with us. And, hello. Yes, my name is Lester. I'm over here now. Jay King still with us, and Tristan Finocchiaro as well. I don't know why I keep saying it like that.
And neither do I.
No, because the Italian thing. Because you keep going like that.
Of course, yeah.
So that's the thing now. Interesting lad, definitely. Lewis,
absolutely.
And he's got a lot of good things to say. Very insightful, very knowledgeable as well, and very good to watch on track as well. Definitely. Thank you, as well, Lewis.
Yeah, he's always been mega quick as well. I mean, even when the first year I moved up to Super Teens, I think he was already the champion, and they'd moved on to the Aprilia 450 Championships. I mean, so he's been with Aprilia a long time as well. But yeah, he's like you say, knowledgeable, race savvy, and a rider that I hope anyway to see in the Superbike class in the next few years.
Very quick in the wet. Very quick in the wet.
Why not? Why not? And interesting to see that he's. I think he said something along the lines of he's keeping the Aprilia relationship open.
Yeah.
I know it's it's obviously, I don't know, it's something for maybe in a couple of years' time, but who knows? Maybe.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to other stuff as well, and Moto 2 time. Actually, before we do that, I saw a thing on the internet today.
Oh, really?
Yes. There was a news break by Joe Talbot Racing, for those who don't know, was making an announcement today. He says, I'm really pleased to announce that I'll be continuing with JR Performance in 2021 in Stock 600, Tristan's class, riding his Kawasaki. And he said he's really looking forward to the season. They can't wait and trade. Yada yada yada. Looking forward to 2021. Congratulations, anyway, Joe. Just thought I'd slip that in. And there you go. Another year with him on the grid, Tristan.
Yeah. That'll be interesting for sure. I mean, he was with JR Performance this year, and he was always quite a quick rider. And JR won the championship this year with Ben Luxton, and I'm sure they'll be looking to do the same next year as well.
Yeah. Interesting. Is Ben? What's Ben Luxton doing next year?
He hasn't announced anything as of yet.
We should get him on the show.
We should dig this one up.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't he meant to come on the show, and then he just
about
fell
5
off
times? Yeah, definitely. We'll just keep mentioning it. It's weird because he's like the closest rider to where I live as well. He's like just down the road. Anyway, whatever.
Run and grab him.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Anyway, so Stock 600, we'll probably have a closer look at who's where and all the proper rider stuff behind all the top tiers and stuff next week on the show. So there you go. Moving on, though, Moto 2, and, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. It didn't go so well for my prediction, did it?
What did you remind me again? You said Sam Lowes is going to win everything. He's going to become world champion, and he's going to be the new Rossi.
Well, I didn't quite say those words, but I did say he'd win the Moto2 championship, and he's put a bit of a dent into that now. Not that it's over. It's definitely not over, but
jinxed him.
He hasn't helped his cause a lot by crashing out when he was in second place at Valencia, maybe trying to push for that win a bit too hard. And like what I was talking to Lewis about, maybe he should have just thought about the championship instead of the race win.
He had your words ringing in his head, I bet.
Yeah. There you go. But it was a pretty bad day for the Brits at Valencia because Dixon didn't even make the race because he broke his wrist in qualifying, I think. And John McPhee crashed once again, your favourite rider, Lester.
Well, I don't have favourites as such. He's one of the Brits that we follow.
Yeah, so Tristan will carry on and tell us a bit more about, in depth of what happened, but that's pretty much it. They all crashed.
They all crashed.
Yeah, there was a hell of a lot of crashing, wasn't there? I mean, even Dixon before, like you say, FP2 had already broken his wrist before they even got to the grid. It was really disappointing because I think
he was actually even on the operating table before the race started. I think he said that. I have it operated on, I believe.
And that's him out for the rest of the season now, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, it sounds horrible, but in a way, I think he might be quite happy with that. I think there might have been quite a lot of pressure on him for it to get a podium before the end of the season. And even though he didn't get on the podium this season, I think he can be quite chuffed with how well he's done this season.
Absolutely.
He should have won that race at Le Mans, but it's easy for us to say. But Sam was catching him pretty quickly. So, I think he should be proud of the season he's had so far.
Oh, absolutely so. And then, I mean, he's with that team again next year. So, I mean, they obviously believe in him as well. And it's going to give him, staying in the same team is going to give him that little springboard next year. He's going to go in, everything's going to be, similar or the same. And he's going to be able to, carry his progress into next year. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And he might be the next MotoGP star for Great Britain. We'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. But we can't ignore the fact that, we can't ignore the race winner from the weekend, can we? Marco Bezzecchi won the race. The next Italian star, maybe a championship contender for next year, do you think?
Yeah, maybe. Is he the one who's going into a Vinti? I'm sorry, I forgot which one it was.
Vinti is going to be an Airbus Giannini, and the Sky VR46 is going to have a sort of a liveried bike in that team for Marini.
That's it, correct, yeah. So obviously he's not going to move up to MotoGP next year. There's going to be a lot of riders like who are up there in Moto2 at the moment who are going to have to do another year in it this year, like Sam. So it's going to be another interesting year in Moto2, especially because I think Dixon as well is going to be fighting for maybe the championship next year as well if he can sort his consistency out. Yeah,
no, absolutely so. And of course, Sam Lowes will still be.
Yeah.
Will still be there. So he's on that 2-year contract with Estrella Galizia, like you say. But I mean the big thing with Lowes has been how much over the years has been how much he crashes, and it seemed like a different rider this year.
This year, to be honest with you, until the Valencia.
Until you jinxed him.
It was it was a bit of the old Sam Lowes, wasn't it? I mean, he'd already had like a scary front end moment earlier in the race, didn't he? And he was looking sort of on the edge. He wanted to close the gap down to Bezzecchi. He got it down to like half a second.
He got a bad start as well, and he fought his way back up to second. And I think he was just a bit, maybe a bit too hot-headed to get to the front. He obviously had the pace to get to the front. But it's easy for us to sit here and say what he should have done. But
stop sitting here and telling him what he should have done.
Well,
it's not like because we want him to succeed. We want, we like him. We want him to do well. And obviously, when he has disappointments or learning weekends, then we're understandably.
I had my head in his hands for him. So I felt really bad because I thought I thought he would settle for the second, but it's easier. Like I said, it's easier for us to sit here and say that.
From the outside, it definitely looked like he was pushing hard to try and make sure he stayed on Bezzecchi. He did come out and say though that that wasn't what he was doing. He said Bezzecchi was really fast. He was happy to sit there and follow him, and sort of understand. And then until the last few laps. But I mean, it did just look like he was pushing on for the win, really, didn't it? I mean, there's still only now he's still in contention for the championship. But there's 2 rounds to go. There's only 6 points in it between him and Bastianini. So I mean, anything, and he's still in very good form as well. You got to remember that. I mean, the last couple of races, he's been in a sort of form that you don't see in Moto2. It's been scary, and it's been out of nowhere. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think anyone predicted it. But I mean, with him in that form and with only 6 points between it. It's not over at all. Yeah,
and plus with the cold weather as well, Sam being British, he's going to have a bit more experience in these colder conditions that obviously the Spanish lads and the Italian lads are not used to this riding in this cold weather because would normally all be done and finished by now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you say that, but he has been out at World Championship level for a very long time though. So I mean, even back, I mean, how long ago was it when he won the World Supersport Championship? And even before then, he was in there for a couple of years. So I mean, he's probably more of a European rider now than he is in terms of sort of riding style than a British rider. But yeah, like you say, that experience that he's had in the UK, I mean, it doesn't go away.
No.
Okay. On to what are we talking about next? Moto 3. Unless we've got other stuff to talk about in Moto 2. Oh, there's a thing. There we go. Any other stuff in Moto 2?
No, that's about it, really. I don't think there's any signings or anything like that that's come out of note.
No, I think we're good to move on to Moto 3 and
Moto 3. Yes, Jay mentioned briefly. John McPhee did
crashed at turn 1.
Well, his weekend started pretty decent.
Yeah, he got pole. He did get pole,
and then
in the tricky conditions, as a Scot normally would, he got pole in the
the old knockhill pole.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just got caught out by that wet patch at turn 1 on that crash, though, didn't he? I mean, it he wasn't the only one.
No.
There you go.
But it was. I mean, obviously he was sort of in contention for the championship. I mean, you say the top 6 in contention for the championship with 2 rounds to go now.
Was it the championship leader? He got caught up. He didn't come off, did he? He got caught up in the instant. I forgot his name now. Sorry.
Arenas.
Yeah, his exhaust come off, didn't it? And
then he got disqualified.
And then he went back out and got in the lead as well and got black flagged.
Yeah, got disqualified for irresponsible riding for that. But yeah, like you say, I mean, he didn't finish. But actually 4 of the top 6 failed to finish in the points in that one, obviously, including McPhee. Arenas, like you said, disqualified for irresponsible riding. McPhee had that crash, that DNF. Masia had a DNF. Vietti down in 23rd after what happened to him in the race as well. I mean, it's all very close at the top. I mean, it's between Arenas and Agura at the moment. There's only 3 points between Arenas and Agura. So, I mean, either of them could still have that. Agura, it's been strange. He's been there, but...
Has he not won a race this season yet, I don't think? Has he? I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not sure on that one, but he hasn't... He's
very consistent.
He's not someone that you would have thought would be fighting for a championship. No disrespect to him.
No.
Well, but, I mean... McPhee in the championship is, 6th at the moment?
6th, 38 points behind, yeah.
He's not totally out of it yet.
He's
the
not.
way the results going, he could still do it.
Yeah, there's 5 people in front of him though. It's a tall order.
Yeah, I mean, I officially wish John McPhee the very best.
I'll message him this week, see if we can get him on the show.
Please do. And he'll say, no, because I watched the episode there where Lester slagged me off, and I was like, no. But I didn't. It was just like, it was a motivational word of encouragement.
I can imagine if we get him on the show, Leicester's square will just be a picture of his chair. I can't imagine you'll be sitting in it, will you, Lester?
I'll be cheering him on from the sidelines.
It's just be that cartoon of a chair just spinning.
Thank you. Yes. Other stuff happening in Moto 3 as well. Fernandez maiden victory apparently.
Yeah.
It's comfortable, really, wasn't it? He kind of got a bit of a lead. That incident kind of gave him a bit of a lead, and it weren't right till the end. The others started to catch up, but I think he had backed off a little by the end.
Yeah, probably a bit of fear of pushing too hard at the end, wasn't it? He had that lead. There was no need to risk anything. Just bring it home safely and pick up the 25 points and pick up your maiden victory at GP level. And maybe one to watch for the future. Maybe possible championship contender for next year.
Boom! There you go. Who knows? Let us know if you have any thoughts about possible championship contenders for the future in Moto 3, Moto 2. Will those ever fulfill Jay King's dreams and actually win, and maybe even move up into Moto GP? Who knows? Loads of time yet for him, I guess. Or who might be the next Brit in Moto 2? Well, the big money obviously on Jake Dixon, but
maybe
know.
Sam Lowe's, but he's got to do it pretty sharpish because I hate to say it, but 30 is not young. So even though I am the sage,
and you were having to go at me for slagging off John McPhee, and you're writing people off now because they're 30.
No, Sam's a very fast rider, but he's obviously he did a year in MotoGP, even though it was on a hopeless bike. Yeah, it could happen. Like I said, we need to have a Brit in MotoGP, really. So I think it's more likely to be Jake because they want to give him a go because kind of like it's someone new, it's someone fresh. And he's already in a team that has got MotoGP, like they're in MotoGP Petronas already. So I think it's more likely to come from Jake.
Interesting to watch how the winter rider movements develop. We've already had, unusually so, quite a lot this week in BSB.
I think we're going to have a lot more this week in BSB as well.
Really? Why?
Well, nothing's been confirmed with any of the Ducati teams yet, really. So it'd be interesting to see who gets them. I was honestly thinking that Kyle Ryde might have been one of the riders to go to a Ducati team, but yeah, that obviously hasn't happened. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see now. And obviously there's an empty spot at Honda now with Glenn. So be interesting to see who goes there as well. I think we probably will hear some of them this week.
I think if Brad Ray doesn't...
I think we might hear that in the next couple of days where Brad Ray is going.
Well, anyway, for context, I did text him before the show. I think, well, either I texted him or his old number. I texted someone anyway, asking him to come on, and he didn't reply.
No, I get a lot of that as well, Lester.
Yeah, I know he never answers me. But yeah, as soon as we know, we'll be right on it with articles and such on our website, motorsport.radio. And yeah, it's we'll look at doing another live show around about the same time next Wednesday evening. Why are we doing stuff like at the end of the season as opposed to not during the first part of the season? Because we want to. All right, just saying.
This time next week we might be talking about our MotoGP champion. Depends on how it goes for Amir at the weekend.
A late suggestion for, I think, what we were talking about a moment ago, possibly a BSB ride somewhere. Ryan Smith has been tuned in still. Thank you, Ryan. He says Rory Skinner, surely.
Yeah,
for what,
might be.
For where?
I would say if there was a ride for Rory Skinner, I would say it'd be a McCams maybe, because of he's been on Yamaha this season, and there was a little thing where they were showing numbers, I think. So I didn't see it personally myself.
No, Michael Howarth texted me the thing of the picture, but I don't know what account it was from. I've not really checked.
But obviously there was a number 69 apparently that flashed up, and obviously Chrissy runs number 69 as well, so maybe it could be Chrissy. But also Rory Skinner used to run 69 as well, so maybe one of them two it could be. But who are they going to get rid of? That means Taron or Jason has to go. I've got rumours that Taron might be going somewhere else, but I'm not going to say.
No. If you've got a hot rumour, you tell us. And then later on we'll decide whether it was wrong or very wrong.
I've heard rumour that there's maybe words between them and PBM. We'll see. I don't know.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. I could see Taron on the PBM bike personally.
Yeah, it's not beyond the realms of comprehension. I mean, Dovizioso, OMG.
Yeah. That could happen.
That's like nailed on. You know, you take that information to the bank.
Yeah.
Ryan Smith got back in touch. He says, actually, no, he was talking about Moto 2. Rory Skinner in Moto 2.
Yeah, I think me and Tristan have both said before we'd love to see Rory on a Moto 2 bike, and I definitely think he's talented enough if he was in the right team to run up the front in Moto 2.
Well,
he's had experience out there as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's had experience in the Junior World Championship and in Red Bull Rookies, and got decent results in there, especially in Red Bull Rookies. And watching him ride from the sidelines as well, he looks like he could ride over on European and world circuits.
From watching, I keep bringing him up, but he had Rory on Chrissy's Chasing the Racing, and Rory says that he really wants to be back in the world and European scene. He didn't want to put like a downer on it that he had to come back to the UK and race in Supersport, but you could tell that he really wants to be back on the world scene again.
Like Tristan. No, I love it in stock 600, he says.
Yeah,
when we talked to Eugene earlier, he's like, that's the place you want to be, isn't it? At the end of the day, that's no disrespect to BSB.
Yeah.
Obviously, that is the best national championship in the world, but everyone wants to be on the world scene, don't they?
We didn't even mention tonight? The agreement with Dorna, or the Dorna World Superbike Organisation, the FIM thingy, whatever that is, and MSVR. We didn't even talk about that tonight. In detail.
For the Supersport class.
Yeah, so maybe we can kick that into next week.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
GP2s need to have their own class, really, don't they, to kind of spread it out again? Maybe split the classes.
Something we can talk about and see if it upsets some of the other, categories. Maybe I'm sure lots of people have lots of opinions and thoughts about it, but. We'll do it on next week's show, or you can just dive on to the BSB and Support Fans Class Fans Facebook group on Facebook, and start posting and stuff. That's 22,000 people on there now. Hello, by the way, if you tuned in, and big hello to. I was just trying to keep an eye on some of the comments. Hello again to Troy Francis, tuned in briefly for a moment, and also Alex Bolton of OMG. He was watching earlier. Hello, Alex. Obviously, got nothing better to do.
I reckon he's been on the phone to Dovizioso.
He's probably on the phone to. Might be on the phone to me later, going, "What the hell are you doing?" Causing all these rumours. But it's not me. These are genuine rumours that the
genuine rumours that you've made up.
Genuine rumours that I've seen on the internet. So therefore, it must all be true.
Sure.
There you go. But thank you very much for listening and tuning in. Download a copy of this show, on your favourite podcast provider, if you like. You can always go down and do that, and don't forget to tune in Monday to Friday, between 6 and 9 in the morning, to the Motorsport Radio Live 24-hour web stream as well. It's the breakfast show with myself, and an unnamed presenter who is no longer presenting the show and is now working in Spain, called rhymes with Pico. But yeah, some good stuff on the breakfast show. Check it out, Monday to Friday. It's the world's only motorsport breakfast show, permanent breakfast show. Anyway, so that's it. Thank you very much, Jay.
Bye. It's been nice speaking to you all.
You seem a little subdued with that do. I mean, I suppose when he's done a good job.
I don't like it. I miss the blue hair as well.
Well, of course you do, but maybe Tristan can paint the other half of his head blue.
Blue and red.
In tribute to you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm looking forward to the motorsport media pictures next year at Fab, because it's going to look brilliant with me and Tristan's hair.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Anyway, that really is it. Now we'll shut up and let you get on with your evening. Thanks for tuning in. It's been the Superbike Show, and we'll see you online. Bye.
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
I'm Ryan Vickers. Hi, I'm Ben Curry.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team, and you're listening to Motorsport Radio.